Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. Awesome honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me here as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, all a bunch of friends standing around a virtual water cooler talking about our favorite stuff. I just got back from watching Christopher Robin. I thought I would be able to review it today because they said nothing to us about an embargo. So I was planning on getting back. By the way, that's why today's show's at 2:30, because I was a little late getting home because I had the Christopher Robin screening. Anyway, I thought I would be able to come home and do my review for Christopher Robin because it said nothing about an embargo, but then at the screening, just before they started rolling the film, they had somebody get up at the front and said, embargo is Thursday night at 7 p.m. Not what I wanted to hear. Not because I really wanted to get my review up, but because you're not lifting the review embargo until the movie opens. Because remember, yes, the movie opens on Friday, but that really means its first screening is Thursday night at 7 p.m. And they've got the review embargo until the moment the movie starts screening. Look, to put it kindly, that's odd. That is really odd. And I thought, like I said, so I checked my phone. My mom got home from the hospital today, so good stuff. So I'm just keep my phone here. I thought for sure that we were just going to be able to put up reviews today, but apparently they don't have any faith in this movie. Now, I can't say anything about it because the embargo's not up till 7 o'clock tomorrow night. But, my philosophy on this, when you don't have the review embargo lift till the day the movie comes out, you are raising a massive red flag, screaming that you have no faith in the movie. And I think it's very odd. And I would love to further discuss it and give you my thoughts on the movie, which add to the oddness of them not having the review embargo tomorrow, but I can't, so I'm not going to. But it's just strange. It's very, very strange. But anyway, that's something I'm sure we'll talk about tomorrow on the John Campea Show as well. Listen, guys, this is all about taking your live questions and your topics. So let's get right to it and jump into it. And we're going to start today with the first live question coming to us from Alexander Helmer, who writes, watched Basic Instinct. I was sweating by the end. It's one of the all-time, especially for adults, a thriller, drama kind of thing. Oh my God, Basic Instinct. You have maybe even seen a bunch of movies in your life that do homage to Basic Instinct, and maybe you never realized it was an homage to Basic Instinct. Then once you watch Basic Instinct, you're like, whoop. Basic Instinct 2 was a train wreck. It was an absolute train wreck. But Basic Instinct 1, classic adult-themed thriller drama. Just classic. And it's tense, man. It's tense. I'm glad you had a chance to see it. All right. Anthony R. writes, I read that Timothy Zahn has some creative control of Mara Jade. Can you explain this? I thought Disney/Lucasfilm had control of their characters. No idea. Look, Mara Jade, the one thing, first of all, I have no idea about Timothy Zahn claiming to or not have any control over Mara Jade. I simply don't know. But, the one thing to understand is that Mara Jade was his creation. The Mara Jade character came about in Timothy Zahn novels. Star Wars novels, yes, but there was one of his original characters. He created the character. Now, there might be some people saying, well, that gives him control. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. What the legal arrangement is with Timothy Zahn, he's writing for Star Wars. I would assume that in the contract with him, that Lucasfilm would have had all the things you create belong to us. Because this is the Star Wars IP. We'll pay you for writing, but understand that while you're under contract with us and we're paying you, everything you create belongs to us. Maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe they had a specific contract with him that said, hey, all of the characters are ours, but any character you create that's new will belong to you. You just can't use them without it being with something with us. I don't know. Who knows what the specifics of the contract are? But I would just naturally assume that, they would have had a standard contract agreement with the guy that anything you create while we're paying you belongs to us. But maybe they didn't. Maybe they had some exceptions. As far as the intricacies of that go, I just have no idea. It would be a very odd situation, though. Anthony R. follows it up with, John, go to Amazon right now and pre-order Batman the Animated Series Blu-ray Limited Edition box set. Comes out in October and will understand. Well, I love that show. Love that show. But I don't buy Blu-rays. I am a complete 100% convert to digital streaming. So yes, I am a 100% digital streaming guy. So I don't buy Blu-rays or anything like that. The last, I think, Blu-ray I got, what was the last Blu-ray I bought? I can't even remember. I can't even remember the last Blu-ray I bought. I know I probably bought one last year, but I can't remember what it was. But at any rate, yeah. But listen, that's a collection that's coming out that I'm very much looking forward to. I know I'm probably going to binge through that entire thing when it comes out. I'll just happen to buy it digitally instead of there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. This is going to be great. Donaldo Martinez writes, what makes Star Trek Wrath of Khan one of the greatest in the universe? In that universe? Is it because of Ricardo Montalban? Well, I mean, I think it's more because of Khan, which is, of course, was portrayed by Ricardo Montalban. Look, great villains make for great movies. You don't have to have a great villain to have a great movie, but if you do, it goes all the further. Die Hard simply is not Die Hard without Alan Rickman playing Hans Gruber. Star Wars isn't Star Wars without Darth Vader. Infinity War is an Infinity War without Thanos. Star Trek Wrath of Khan, I mean, it's the greatest villain. I think it's everything is subjective, but it's almost a universally accepted truth. Almost a universally accepted truth that the greatest villain in the history of Star Trek is Khan. So, and I love it when my villains start quoting Shakespeare. But, so when you have Khan, I mean, it just increases it, and that's the backbone. First, the movie's just great, right? This is SETI Alpha 6! Anyway, it's a great movie just to start with, but when you take a great movie and a great franchise like Star Trek, and then you add into that an all-time world-class villain like Khan, played brilliantly by Ricardo Montalban, who also played the character in the original series, then you got a recipe for some pretty damn good stuff to happen. So, yeah, it's probably Ricardo Montalban / Khan is probably the reason I pretty much acknowledge maybe it's the greatest Star Trek movie of all time. All right, Ben Rayner writes, you say you like Daredevil 2003, and you would love it without that teeter-totter scene. Yep. Have you tried editing out that scene? Would that make a difference? Well, I mean, I don't edit existing movies. I don't do that. But yeah, I firmly stand by that. I am unashamed and I am unmovable on this. I like the Ben Affleck, Colin Farrell, Michael Clark Duncan comic book movie Daredevil. I like that movie. I do. And I would say, what I always say when I talk about that movie is, if you take out that entire teeter-totter scene, which was just, I don't know what they were smoking, but if you take out that teeter-totter scene, I would say it's not just a good comic book movie, I would say it's a great comic book movie. It is in there, and it drags the whole movie down, yes, but I believe that, and I'm unashamed of that. I think it's a solid movie. I have a lot of fun with that movie. Jon Favreau's in that too, now that I remember. Anyway, but no, I don't go around editing out movies and doing that. I don't do that kind of stuff. But I do believe if had it originally just not had that stupid teeter-totter scene, I think a lot of people would look at that movie differently. Unfortunately, it was there, and that scene just kind of highlighted for everybody all the things that they didn't like about the movie. You know, then that scene comes in and punches you right in the face and really highlights everything else you don't like about that movie. And it's just, I think it's unfortunate. And I think a lot of people would look at the movie differently. I'm not saying people would love this movie. I'm not saying that. But I do think had they not had that all-time awful scene in that movie, I think a lot of people would look at that original Daredevil film a little bit differently. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. All right. Abraham Asif writes, harder to rank, Pixar movies or the MCU movies? I don't think ranking the MCU movies are all that difficult. I do think ranking the Pixar movies is nigh impossible. Because in Pixar, in the filmography of Pixar, you're going to run into 7, 8, or 9 movies that you're just going to go, that movie's an all-time classic, 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 that movie's an all-time classic. I mean, and it just gets to be ridiculous. MCU has great movies in it, but it's only got a small group of them they can say, I mean, like, all-time classic. It's only got a small group of them. Certainly a bunch that are all-time classics within the genre, but Pixar just has some all-time great classic masterpieces regardless of genre. Whether you're talking about Ratatouille, or you're talking about Toy Story, or you're talking about The Incredibles, or you're talking about Coco, for heaven's sakes, or you're talking about WALL-E, or you're talking about Up, or you're talking about on and on and on and on and on. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, I could probably sit down and in 5 minutes sketch out a ranking of all the MCU movies. I could probably sit down in 5 or 10 minutes and sketch out all. I would need a month to try to rank out the Pixar films. Because I'm going to agonize and like writhe in pain, squirming in the fetal position. Do I put WALL-E above Ratatouille or no? And I would just agonize over that one decision for hours. And then there's all the other decisions. So yes, while I could probably sketch together in about 10 minutes a full ranking of the MCU movies, it would take me a month to do that with Pixar. It would just be unbearable for me. So I'm going to say it would be harder to rank the Pixar films. But that's just my opinion. You might feel differently, which is fine. But for me, it would be an awful undertaking. All right, let's go on here. Nathan Oswald writes, the first Venom trailer looked okay. But to be completely honest, I think the second Venom trailer looks terrible. And Hardy's American accent is so annoying. Hey man, it's all subjective. It's all subjective. I thought the second trailer was awesome. And we did the poll for the question of the day on the John Campea show yesterday saying, hey, did this trailer increase your interest in the movie, decrease your interest, or not do much? And overwhelmingly, the winner was people saying it increased their interest in the movie. Only 8% of the respondents said it decreased their anticipation of the movie, and about 20% said it didn't move the needle. Like they still feel exactly the same way that they did. Not better, not worse, just exactly the same they did. But overwhelmingly, the rest of the audience was like, boom, this increased the interest. But, like we said, Nathan, all the time, all films subjective. I thought, Matt, you know what? I saw somebody say, I couldn't understand what Tom Hardy was saying. And I'm like, really? Because look, I'm somebody who had a hard time understanding Tom Hardy as Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. Like, I know there's a bunch of people who did too, but I was one of them. I had a very difficult time sometimes understanding what Tom Hardy was saying as Bane. So I'm one of those guys. And I'm not all that smart. So I watched the trailer. I had no difficulty understanding first time, every time, easy time. I had no problem with Tom Hardy's speech or his American accent or anything. I worked fine for me. So that doesn't mean it has to work fine for you. I'm just saying it happened to work fine for me. And I'm one of the guys that I did have a problem with one of Tom Hardy's characters before. But honestly, for me, I had absolutely no problem with it. So I thought the trailer was fantastic. I'm all on board. But not everything's for everybody, man. And it didn't work for you. That sucks that it didn't work for you, but it didn't work for you. Nothing wrong with that. Let's see here. Donaldo Martinez writes, what happened to Jean-Claude Van Damme? Other than Expendables 2, I haven't seen him do anything else on the big screen since the sequel to Universal Soldier. Well, I mean, he's just not a draw. I mean, that's the thing. Jean-Claude Van Damme, first of all, he's never been a great actor. Okay, let's just be clear about that. Jean-Claude Van Damme was never a great actor. What he was a great action star. But the era of those movies has passed. People aren't making those types of movies anymore, with a few exceptions. And when they do make them, they seem to either want Jason Statham or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in them. Both of whom are better actors than Jean-Claude Van Damme. So if you're a producer, what are you putting Jean-Claude Van Damme in? You're certainly not putting him in your new romantic comedy, unless he's playing himself. You know, you're not putting him in your new drama thriller. You're not putting him in this, that, and the other thing. And they just don't make a lot of the types of movies that Jean-Claude Van Damme used to do. And even if you were, you're probably going for a younger star at this point. Now, he's got that TV show that he was doing. I can't remember the name of it. I can't, but he had that TV show on where he's playing himself, but he was actually a secret agent. He's Jean-Claude Van Damme, but he's playing a secret agent. The premise looks crazy. I haven't seen it yet, although I've been dying to watch it. And my brother-in-law Stan, who's also Canadian. See, Anne has a sister named Olive. Olive married this, and Olive is shorter than Anne. Anne's a hobbit. And Anne's sister Olive is even shorter than Anne. And she married another Canadian dude from the Toronto area who's a big Star Wars fan. Except the difference is Stan is a 6'9" bodybuilder. So it meant have you ever seen pictures with me with Anne, right? I dwarf Anne. My brother-in-law Stan standing next to Olive is just insane. Like, it just boggles your mind because he's like way up here and Olive's way down here. But anyway, so my brother-in-law Stan, he's gotten into doing a lot of acting. And he's in a bunch of TV shows and movies now because he's like this big physical guy, right? So they put him in, he gets a lot of background work. Tons and tons and tons of background work. So anyway, he did a spot in that Jean-Claude Van Damme show, and I still haven't seen it. So I got to make sure I get around to seeing it. But I think that's basically why, which is too bad, because I love the old Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. I love those old movies. Bloodsport is one of the greatest action films ever. Just Bolo Young in that movie? Are you kidding? With the most impressive pecs I've ever seen in a movie? Bolo Young in that? Are you kidding? You will be next. Anyway, I could go. Sorry, I'm starting to ramble. But I love those old Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, but really, what producer is going to put him in a lot these days? I mean, that's just the reality of it. So that's a big reason why you probably don't see him in a lot of stuff. Ben Rayner writes, did you buy Infinity War yet on digital? Are you going to buy Deadpool 2? I have not bought Infinity War yet. You know, it's funny. Last night, Ann and I had a very rare, quiet evening at home. And we haven't had a lot of evenings to ourselves, especially since Comic-Con. We've both been very busy trying to get caught up in things. And last night, lo and behold, we had an evening that we could just spend together. So we ordered in Chinese food, and we said, let's watch a movie. And we came this close, like, oh yeah, Infinity War's available now. We almost got that, but I didn't buy it yet. We said, because we both went, you know what? We're both kind of in the mood to laugh. So you know what we watched? We watched Sandra Bullock, Ryan Reynolds, The Proposal, with Craig T. Nelson, who's Mr. Incredible, in it as well, and Betty White. So we watched The Proposal. I forgot how funny that movie is. The Proposal is awesome. If you haven't watched The Proposal, and you and your girl, or you and your guy, or you and your buddies are hanging out one night and just want to see a good movie that's just going to make you laugh, watch The Proposal. I thought it was great. I had a great time with it. So I'm going to buy Infinity War probably the next day or two. As far as Deadpool 2, I'm absolutely going to buy that. Oh, for sure. But you know what? This is me, though. I don't rush out and buy the movies the moment they become available. I buy them the moment I've got the time to sit down and watch them. So last night, this is a good example. Last night, we weren't going to watch Infinity War because we felt like watching a light comedy. So I didn't buy it. I'll just buy it the next time I got 2 hours. I'm going to sit down and watch a movie. I feel like watching Infinity War. That's when I'll buy it. It'll be the same thing for Deadpool 2. As soon as I'm ready to watch it, that's when I buy it. Because, it's digital. It's not like they're going to run out of copies. So that's one of the great things about digital as well. Let's see. Trevor Johnson writes, that Man of Steel line of, can't I keep pretending I'm your son? Oh! And Jonathan's response hit me recently, you are my son. And Jonathan's response hit me recently, John is finally seeing how in pain and alone his son feels, and Costner's line delivery and that fast hug are perfect. I'm telling you, I know Man of Steel almost comes up every day that I do my show, because I'm one of the few guys in the world that truly appreciates that movie. That movie gets better every time I see it. That movie is a masterpiece of the comic book genre. I'm not saying it's a masterpiece of Hollywood, but it's a masterpiece of the comic book genre. Man of Steel is amazing, and that is one of the great moments in it. Oh, first of all, the scene's good enough. Just when the kid says, can't we just keep pretending I'm your son? That scene could have ended right there, and it would be an amazing scene. And your heart breaks. And the kid, because this is a kid who's now revealing really how he feels. He really feels like, I'm just pretend I don't belong here. I'm the misfit. I don't belong here. You're just being nice to me. I'm a loser, blah, blah, blah. That's what's, when he says, can't we just keep pretending I'm your son? It expresses that he feels that Jonathan and Martha Kent are just pretending. Yeah, okay, we'll pretend you're our kid, blah, blah, blah. And so much is revealed in that moment. And then, oh my God, the way Kevin Costner plays that scene, the way he grabs him and the way he says, he's trying not to break, and he says, you are my son. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that scene. God damn, that's a good scene. That's a freaking great movie. I'll put it out an open challenge to any YouTuber, anywhere, anytime. Anybody ever wants to try to get on camera with me and debate the merits of Man of Steel, bring it. You name the time and place, I'll be there. I'll within reason. But anyway, because you'll lose, not because I'm a better debater, although I'm a better debater, but not because I'm a better debater, because Man of Steel's awesome. All film is subjective. It doesn't work for everybody. I get it. And that's all true. But I mean, man, I love that movie. And that scene is so good. So good. Anyway, I can get off on a tangent about Man of Steel all the time. So Trevor Johnson writes, also, thanks to your commentary track at your last gig, you made me realize how emotionally deep that movie is and made me give it a second look. I love it. Thanks, man. So many scenes in there that make me tear up. And I remember, actually one of my fondest John Schnepp memories is doing that commentary with John Schnepp. And I remember Schnepp was one of those guys that didn't really care all that much about Man of Steel. And then we watched it again, and we did a commentary. And after that, he's like, Man of Steel's really good. It's like, yeah, it's really good. It's just one of those movies that gets better every time. I just adore it. Go back, look. If you're somebody who watched it once and you weren't sure what you felt about it, when you have some time, watch Man of Steel again. Because I'm telling you, it is a movie that gets better every time you see it. But anyway, that's just how I feel about it. Lee Brockway writes, how was Christopher Robin? It's under embargo. I can't say anything until tomorrow night, unfortunately. But I can't say anything about it till tomorrow night. So there you go. Let's see. Anthony Hara writes, if Disney does end up owning Fox, can they make Fox the distributor again for Star Wars so we can get the fanfare back? Can you explain how distribution works? Well, I mean, you don't make a multi-billion-dollar business decision based on putting a fanfare in front of movies. I know there's a cool nostalgia factor in that, but it has no real value. So I know they wouldn't do that. How does distribution work? Well, it's two different things. You know what? I've done a video to this before, and I will, if I can remember, I'll try to put a link to the video in the description of this video. And basically, you got two different levels. You have production company and you have distribution company. The production companies are the ones that make the movies. The distributors are then the ones who take that movie and decide what to do with it. They distribute it. They put it on streaming. They put it on in theaters. They do this. They do all that kind of stuff. So that's a separate thing. Now, the big major studios, a lot of them do their own producing and their own distribution, right? A lot of them do. But a lot of films need distributors. So that's why, like, Blumhouse will make movies, but then Sony will distribute it. Or A24 will make this movie and Universal will distribute it. Like, so you have distributors and stuff like that. Again, it's more than all that. And like I said, I've made videos about that before. Theoretically speaking, could Disney keep Fox distribution intact? Theoretically, they could, but I do not believe that's their plan. I believe their plan is to dismantle everything they get for parts. So my understanding at this point is that Fox, the distributor, will cease to exist. And anything that was a distribution thing with Fox distribution will now become a thing with Buena Vista or with Disney proper, things like that. And Disney will become the distributors of those things. So my best understanding is that there is not going to be a Fox anymore. Now, I believe had Comcast won the bid, Comcast's plan was to keep it all together. So Fox Studios would still exist, Fox Distribution would still exist, and they would keep operating. Much like when Comcast bought Universal. Universal is still a thing. They still do their thing. So that would have, but my understanding is that Disney is basically going to dismantle everything there for parts and to take advantage of all the digital IP. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm not pretending to have insider information to know that for sure. We're just going to have to wait and see. Within about a year, it should all become clear. Let's see. Amin Mache Ekai writes, "Hey, John, have you ever watched the 2009 show Flash Forward? I really like it and would have loved to have seen season 2. Do you think we'll ever get a reboot?" I've never even heard of it. Honestly, I've never even heard of Flash Forward. So, and if I'm reading your email right, if I'm reading your message right, it only lasted one season. Yeah, so no, I didn't see it. I can't comment about whether we'll ever get a reboot because I don't know anything about it. I don't even remember even hearing about it. So wrong guy to ask right now. But yeah, that sucks. I mean, there was a show that you liked and it didn't get a season 2. That's too bad. All right, let's move on here. Thunder Knight 19 writes, "What will happen to any of the properties that Fox has the rights to, which are not based on original properties, for example, Narnia, if Disney buys them out? Would the rights go back to the original owners?" That all depends. It all depends. You see, because each individual property will have its own unique contract. And I'm sure some contracts will be one way, some contracts will be another. So, for example, if Fox just disappeared, the rights to X-Men and Fantastic Four would have gone back to Disney. Because that's there. I mean, they can't exist in a vacuum, and they're not transferable by Fox. Fox couldn't sell those rights to other people. But if Comcast had won the bid to buy Fox and kept Fox together, then Fox still has the rights to X-Men, right? So it's weird, but that is the unique situation they were in. I'm sure there are some properties with rights that are transferable, and I'm sure there are properties with rights that are not transferable. There's no one blanket truth. Like every contract is different and unique and they work out different terms. So I'm sure that there will be some properties that will revert back to their original owners. I'm sure that there are some properties that are transferable that will go along to Disney. So which ones are which, we're still almost a year away from finding that out for sure. But there won't be any one blanket answer to that. There is no one blanket answer to that. It'll be unique to each individual contract. All right. Nathan Oswald writes, "What was the point of the mid-Atlantic accent?" I have no idea what we're talking about, Nathan. Sorry about that. Let's see. Anthony R. writes, "Feige said that Phase 4 will be very different. Do you think Avengers 4 will have a unique end credit showing the overall end of Phase 1, 2, and 3 era? Nah. But at the same time, Feige has said that sort of thing before. And, this one, with Iron Man 3, it's totally different. With Guardians 2, it's a completely different game. After Avengers 4, going into Phase 4, it's completely different. And there's always differences. There's always differences, but I would never say anytime Kevin Feige and the Marvel gang have said, this completely changes the game, this changes everything, and we've heard them say that before with the different individual franchises within the MCU, and it's never been that big of a deal. Great movies, but never that big of a deal, never this world-altering change. So I'll be honest with you, when Kevin Feige says, everything's going to be different in Phase 4, yeah, I've heard that before. There will probably be some material changes, yes, but it's probably not going to be all that different. I don't know that. I'm just saying, based on this song and dance we've seen before, and it's never really amounted to all that much, I hear him now talking about how Phase 4 is going to be really different, and I'm like, well, I don't believe you because you've said that sort of thing about other things and they've never actually ended up being that different. They've still ended up being great, and that's all that matters. I'm sure Phase 4 will be great, and that's all that matters. How different it will be? Like I said, I'm sure there are some differences. I'm sure there are some differences. One second. Like I said, I have to keep my eye on this right now. Let me just do a quick thing. Doing live show. Call you back in 30 minutes. Okay, sorry about that, guys. But like just with the status of my family right now, I need to keep my phone with me, so I apologize for that. Anyway, so that's just how I feel. I mean, I could be totally wrong. Maybe Phase 4 comes and the whole thing takes place on the moon. Everything's on the moon, and all the movies are in black and white. And everybody's played by Scottish actors. And heroes are villains, and villains are heroes, cats and dogs living together. I mean, it could be completely different. I'm just saying that I've heard Kevin Feige give this little song and dance before about how different everything's going to be, and it never actually works out being that different. So I'm not going to get too worked up about how different everything will be going into Phase 4 until we actually see it. Might be totally different, might not be different. Okay, let's move on. Sorry, still have people texting me. Okay, Joshua Stevens writes, I think Donnie Yen would be a good cast for the Enter the Dragon remake. Donnie Yen? Here's the problem with Donnie Yen for Enter the Dragon remake. Well, I guess it all partially depends on what era. The problem with Donnie Yen is that he's 55 years old. If you're trying to do, I don't believe Bruce Lee ever got that age. Like, actually, let me look this up. How old was Bruce Lee when he died? Bruce Lee was 32. Donnie Yen's 55. So, I mean, if you're, I don't know that you can get, now, Donnie Yen don't look no 55. Let's be clear about that. Donnie Yen does not look 55. But, I mean, he's 23 years right now. Today, he's 23 years older than when Bruce Lee died. So, I mean, Donnie Yen's great. I love Donnie Yen. I don't care if it's Ip Man or whether he's one of the Guardians of the Wills. I love Donnie Yen. But he's 23 years older than when Bruce Lee died, so I don't know. I just can't see that being the case. It is going to be very curious, though, Joshua, to see who it is they do cast. I'm going to be very curious to see who they get in that. They're going to have to be be really thorough about doing a good casting job with that. Star Wars Cantina Talk writes, big fan, would give more if I could, love you, Nick. Oh, that's not important. Thank you for donating and all. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, man. That was really nice of you. Appreciate it. Jonathan Schleicht writes, how was Christopher Robin this morning? Again, I am not allowed to talk about it because for some reason it's still under embargo. Shouldn't be under embargo right now. It should not be. No movie should be under embargo until the moment it opens in theaters. Should not be that. But that's the decision they made. And it's a dumb decision, but it is the decision they made, so I can't talk about it. It is frustrating. I'd like to talk about it, but I can't. All right. Henry Stevens writes, of all the films left to see this year, The Meg for me is a definite one for the IMAX experience. What about yourself? I'm not a huge IMAX guy. I like seeing most of my films on AMC Prime, the Dolby Cinemas and stuff like that. The Meg has become one I'm excited about. So there's that one. I'm definitely looking forward to Happy Time Murders. Now, I put out a video the other day on the August movie preview, like the top 5 movies to look forward to in August. And I gotta say, I talked about this then. I know Happy Time Murders, when that trailer came out, it completely divided the audience because Happy Time Murders, that trailer, is the type of trailer where there is no middle ground. You either thought it was some of the most brain-dead garbage you've ever seen, or you thought it was absolutely freaking hilarious. I happened to fall on the side of the absolutely freaking hilarious camp. I was laughing myself sick. I almost couldn't breathe. I was laughing so hard at that trailer. Now, is that a movie I need to see on a Dolby screen or an IMAX screen or something like that? Probably not, but that's the way I like to experience my movies now. As far as the rest of the year goes, I don't know, man. I forget what's opening beyond next week. I mean, I'd have to sit down and look. Obviously, December is going to be huge. I'm really excited about Mary Poppins. I'm getting more excited about that Alita Battle Angel. I'm obviously excited about Venom. Aquaman is obviously one I'm very excited about. I'm getting curious. That trailer for Bumblebee made me curious. I'm curious for Bumblebee. I thought the trailers for the Peter Jackson Mortal Engines, I thought that's looked really good. I'm telling you, there's a lot of interesting stuff still coming out this year. But in the immediate future, I got to say, Meg, I'm definitely looking forward to, but Happy Time Murders is also really big. And I know a lot of you guys are probably not looking forward to that movie at all, and that's cool. But I'm really looking forward to that one. All right. Tongaverse Viking writes, I was excited for Christopher Robin, but it seems we only get a dubbed version here in Belgium. F.U. Disney. Also, Star Wars Episode 9 started production today. Oh, that's right. It did start production today, didn't it? It was starting August 1st. I forgot all about that. So, they're hard at work on that little thing right now. Oh, that's too bad. They're only, but, well, what's the other option? Are you saying, Tongaverse, you were hoping for subtitles as opposed to dubbed? That's interesting because you know what? I find a lot of people, that is really interesting because I find a lot of people, normally it's the reverse. Normally they want dubbed because they don't like reading during a movie. I don't know why. I have no problem with subtitled movies, but a lot of people don't enjoy them. Hey, that's fine. That's the subjectivity of film. But I don't often hear people say they would rather get the dubbed version. And that's probably why they're doing it, because the vast majority of people seem to prefer getting dubbed as opposed to, I just talked about it, instead of text on the bottom of the screen, subtitled. But yeah, well, hopefully you get a chance to see it subtitled at some point. All right, Paul writes, over the last few weeks, I watched Zero Dark 30, Miss Sloane, and Molly's Game. Jessica Chastain is excellent in all of them. Wow, my new favorite actress. No kidding. The other night, Ann and Kaori and I were over here and we were just kind of sitting around and The Help was on. I love The Help. That movie is frickin' brilliant. Anyway, got a lot of Oscar buzz. I believe it took home a couple of Oscars as well. Anyway, The Help is awesome, and Jessica Chastain's in that too. Jessica Chastain is a goddess. She really is. She is slowly creeping her way into top 5 best actresses in the business. She's amazing. And you're right, Zero Dark 30, Miss Sloane, Molly's Game, The Help. What was the one about the law that she was in with Gary Oldman and Transformers boy, Shia LaBeouf, and Tom Hardy, and I forget the name of the movie now. Why am I forgetting that? But anyway, Jessica Chastain was in that. She was great in that. Jessica Chastain is just money. Absolute money. She's beautiful. She's talented. She's charming. I've had a chance to talk with Jessica Chastain a couple times. Super charming. Oh my God, she's amazing. And yeah, she should be one of your favorite actors. She's absolutely amazing. But that sounds like a great triple header to watch over a few days, man. All right. Rodrigo Ortiz writes, have you seen Lone Survivor? Yes. Tough to watch in my opinion. I think Mark Wahlberg, Taylor Kitsch, Emile Hirsch, and Ben Foster were also great in it. And another example of one that he did, directed by, I'm brain freezing a lot. I'm looking at his picture in my head. Lone Survivor director. It's yet another movie that he did with Peter Berg. He has put out, and this is why I'm looking forward to Mile 22. Because a lot of people saying, Mile 22 doesn't look all that good. But here's why I'm excited about it. Peter Berg and Mark Wahlberg have put out 3 outstanding films in a row together. They put out Lone Survivor. They put out the oil rig one, Event Horizon, Deepwater Horizon. And then they put out Patriot Day. They put out those 3 films in a row, and all 3 of those films are absolutely exceptional. Like, all absolutely exceptional movies. That is a great director-actor combo. And now their 4th one in a row coming is Mile 22. So I admit they're not the greatest trailers in the world. I think they look like they got some good, fun action. You got the Raid star in there. You got, Lauren, the girl from Walking Dead. Mark Wahlberg's a good action star. But it's the fact that it's a Peter Berg, Mark Wahlberg film. That, to me, is the basis for being optimistic. And Lone Survivor is one of the things. And I agree. It's a tough movie to watch. There are some beautiful, wonderful movies that are tricky to watch. They're tough to watch. Schindler's List is an example of that. Lone Survivor is a tough one to watch, but I think it's a great movie. I really do. Okay. Murray Reich writes, saw Equalizer 2 last Monday, and I gotta say, I actually enjoyed the film a lot. Denzel always brings it to the table. Not a masterpiece, but I left the theater with a big smile. Good action flick overall. It's still crazy. I think tonight, Ann and I have our second night in a row that we get to just hang out together. It's amazing. We're maybe going to go see Equalizer 2. I still haven't watched it. I've had a lot going on. I'm still not talking completely properly yet. But anyway, Michael see it. And it's a real shame that I haven't seen it yet because I love the first one. I thought the first one was really underrated and really underappreciated. I thought the first one was great. What Antoine Fuqua and Denzel did in that movie, I thought was great. So I've been very excited. Now, I've been disheartened hearing that the reviews haven't been wonderful, but I'm glad you had a chance to see it, Murray, and I'm glad you liked it. I got to get myself out to see it, man. I got to get myself out to see it because I love that combo. I really love the first one, and I'm looking forward to the second one. Okay. Murray Reich follows up with, some can get annoying when they react too much. A woman in the audience saw Denzel schooling some fool and she yelled, "You get him, boy." Then some guy in the audience yelled to her, "This is the part where you shut the fuck up." Well, I mean, look, I talked the other day about how when Ann and I went to go see Mamma Mia 2, what really made the experience truly awesome for me, and by the way, guys, you can tell I'm starting to sweat. I'm going to crank on the AC here. So it's going to get loud in here. I apologize, but I have to have it on or else I'm not going to be able to continue doing the show. When we were watching Mamma Mia 2, there were these two women sitting beside us. And they were having the time of their life. No pun intended. Having the time of your life. No, so no pun intended. But they were sitting there dancing and laughing, whatever. And I gotta tell you what, for me, seeing other people have so much fun made it fun for me. And I don't even mind the odd outburst in a theater, as long as somebody doesn't now think they're the comedian and they're supposed to talk and make funny jokes throughout the movie. I would have been honest. If I was sitting in that theater and one time Denzel does something really badass on screen and some woman yells out, what did she say? "You get him, boy." I probably would have loved that. Now, if it was the fourth thing she yelled out or the fifth thing she yelled at, it gets annoying. It gets really annoying. But the one-time thing, come on, this is that type of movie. I would have been fine with it. Personally, I would have been fine with it. But if it was like the third time she yelled something out, then I totally would have been with the guy who told her that this is the part where you shut up. I probably would have been with her on that too. And then again, it depends on the movie, depends on the crowd, all that kind of stuff. It's really hard to say. All I know is, one of the things I love about going to the movies is when I'm around a bunch of people who are having a good time, it makes me enjoy myself even more. It really does. You do got to control. You have to, limit how exuberant you are. You want to be respectful of everybody around you. But cheer, laugh, clap, gasp, whatever. If you try to be mindful of other people while you're doing it, then I think it's okay. But, every situation's different, right? Every single situation's different, and sometimes it can get really annoying, no doubt. All right. Dylan Robbins writes, "As much as we bash MoviePass, they benefited the audience greatly. If it wasn't for their rivalry with AMC, would we still have gotten A-list?" Well, I can tell you this for 100% for fact. MoviePass is just a copy of something they've been doing in the UK for years called Cineworld. Like, Cineworld is a theater chain, and they had their movie membership pass. And they've been doing it forever. MoviePass just tried to copy what they were doing. But I can tell you this. When I was at AMC, this is years ago, when I was still working at AMC, I can tell you this, AMC was already studying that Cineworld model. And AMC Theaters is a crawl, walk, run company. They take their time, like to a fault. Sometimes I got very frustrated with them as a company because of how slow everything moved, but they move slowly and they move deliberately. And I can tell you this, long before anybody had ever heard of MoviePass, AMC was studying that Cineworld model and looking at how and doing studies on it and trying to figure out how something like that could be implemented today. I feel very comfortable in saying this. If MoviePass had never existed, AMC A-List would still have become a thing. The only thing that I wonder about is I wonder if MoviePass's existence hastened AMC A-List coming out. That there might be an argument to be made for that. But I can tell you right now for fact, because I was there, that AMC A-List was something that has been in the works with AMC for years. For years. And it wasn't from them looking at MoviePass, it was from them looking at Cineworld. And that was the model that they were building off of at the time. So, look, MoviePass, did they do something great for audiences? Sure, but it was something that was never going to last. And that was what the movie theaters were afraid of. That's what Regal and AMC were afraid of. They're saying, you're doing this thing that can't possibly last. And all you're going to do is get people used to the idea that I can go to all the movies I want for just $10. And when you die, and you're going to die, it's going to undermine their movie-going experience. And some people, maybe even me a little bit, would say to Regals and to the AMCs and Cinemark saying, you're just being jealous. You're just being jealous that somebody else is doing something like this. But guess what? Turns out the theaters were right. What MoviePass was doing was always stupid. Their whole business model, they knew at $10 a month they would never be profitable. Their business plan was to try to get as many people to sign up as possible so that they could use you and me as blackmail leverage against the theaters and movie studios to force movie theaters to make deals with them. Hey, AMC, cut us in on... This is exactly what happened. Cut us in on the concession stand, or else it would be a shame if we didn't let you MoviePass users use some of your most popular theaters. Remember, they did that. Remember? Hey, movie studios, you might want to cut some deals with us, because if you don't, we might have to put on a special for your competitors' movies that are opening up on the same weekend and not let your movie be used by MoviePass. Remember they did that with Red Sparrow? Or what that Jennifer Lawrence was? I think it was Red Sparrow. Red something. Anyway, that's what they did. Their whole business model was based on the idea that we will use our customers as blackmail leverage and try to strong-arm studios who don't want to do business with us and force them to do business with us. And then strong-arm studios who don't want to do business with us and force them to do business. And we'll use these consumers, these customers that we lure in with a $10 a month fee, just $10 a month for all you can see movies. And we'll use them as a billy club and strong-arm and force these other guys to do business with us. That's our business plan. When it became clear that that was their business plan, it turned a lot of people off, including me. It's like, that's not how you do business. And sure enough, the movie theaters stood their ground and said, no, we're not cutting you in on our concession stand deals. No, we're not giving you portions of our movie ticket sales. If you've got a business that works, then you make your business work and you survive on your own. We're not giving you parts of our revenue. And that was their plan, to make other companies cut them in on their action. That was their plan the whole time. There was nothing about MoviePass's motivations or their plan that was about doing good things for moviegoers. No, it wasn't. And that's fine. But if you're going to do business that requires you to succeed and not requires you forcing other people to do business with you. And that's when they lost my respect. That's when MoviePass, when I started to see just how shady of a company they were, that's when they lost my respect. Because remember, I was a happy card-carrying MoviePass member for a long time. When I started realizing just how underhanded they were and how shady they were, they lost my respect. And that's when I was like, not just expecting that MoviePass would eventually die, I was starting to cheer for MoviePass to die. Because they're a shady, underhanded company, in my estimation. My estimation is, and my assessment is that they are a shady, dubious, dirty company. And yeah, I'm to quote Jack Nicholson from Batman, I'm glad you're dead. You know, I'm going to be glad to see them gone. I will. I'll be glad to see them gone. Let's see. Darth Impact writes, hey John, I watched Infinity War like 3 times in 2 days and I love it. My only real complaint is we didn't get to see Thanos decimate Xandar and the Nova Corps for the Power Stone. Is that morbid? No, it's not morbid. It's a big, huge action scene. That would have been a great scene to see, but here's the problem. There's probably 40 great things they could have put in there. You have to edit your films. And just throwing in more... Look, simple addition does not make your movie better. Right? Just throwing in more stuff and more stuff and more stuff, that doesn't necessarily make your movie better. Even if it's good stuff you're throwing in, you have to have pace to your movie. You have to streamline your movie. You got to be efficient with your movie. And I think they did the best they could. And now look, I'm going to agree right away. The first time I saw Infinity War, and I heard the whole Xandar thing mentioned, when Thor was telling the story about how he wiped out Xandar and got the stone from them, I remember the first thing saying, well, why didn't you show us that? Like, I was right there with you. But the movie was already a bit too long. It was already a bit overstuffed. It already had too many characters. I mean, just adding more wasn't the right thing. So I'm with you. I thought the exact same damn thing. Why didn't you show us that? But in hindsight, you ever see that Monty Python skit where there's that super fat dude in the restaurant and they keep giving him more and more food? And then John Cleese comes and says, maybe you'd just like to have one more mint. He's like, no, I'm stuffed. No, just one little mint. He's like, fine. And he stuffs the last mint in his mouth and he explodes. That's what I kind of feel like Infinity War. I felt like Infinity War was already stretched as far as it could be. You know what I'm saying? I feel like Infinity War was already stretched as far as it could go. And that honestly, they probably couldn't push it any further or go any further than that. Speaking of that, hold on a second, guys. I'm just getting a thing here. Sorry, I'm trying to see if I can make an announcement or not. That's the wrong thing that I just looked at. That's the right thing I'm looking at. Why is the right thing not coming up? The right thing is not coming up. Hold on a second. Let me try this one more time. I, for whatever reason, cannot get this thing to open. So, this is killing me, guys. I know this is irritating. I know this is irritating. Hold on a second. Gosh. Sorry, guys. Oh, now I know what to look for. Hold on a second. Bang. Okay. Okay, you know what? Just here for a quick spot, I'm going to make an announcement right now. I'm going to make an announcement. And then we'll go on to Michael Anderson's question. So, are you ready for an announcement, everybody? Okay, here's an announcement. One of the shows I used to do, I'll just take this down for a second while I'm making this announcement. One of the shows that I used to do here on my channel was The Weekly Hero. And, you know, it was just a weekly because, you know, comic book movies are one of my favorite things. So we had just much like Star Wars is one of my favorite things. So I had a weekly show about Star Wars. Love comic book movies, had a weekly show about comic book movies. But the problem was, it was just a little bit too similar to the John Campea show. I mean, it was exactly like the John Campea show, just with some specific topics, you know? So I decided I'm going to pull the plug on it. We're not going to do Weekly Hero anymore. But I always wanted to do it. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm making a little bit of an announcement. I am bringing back The Weekly Hero as a weekly show. It'll be on Wednesdays. I believe we'll do it live. And we're talking about all, because we got the new TV season is coming. We got tons of comic book related TV shows and movies and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a lot of good stuff to talk about. However, the big difference is I'm going to have a co-host. And my co-host for The Weekly Hero is Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert Meyer Burnett is going to be my co-host for that. And I got to tell you what, I am really super excited. I'm very, very excited to do, number one, just to do bring The Weekly Hero back, because I loved doing The Weekly Hero. Let me just see, I want to see where you guys are in here. Tell you what, I am really yeah, there we're back. Okay. So, yeah, I'm big excited about The Weekly Hero coming back. I cannot wait to do it again, and to have somebody like Robert Meyer Burnett, who I used to love doing Heroes with. I mean, obviously it was me, it was John Schnepp, obviously, who I'd made the host of that show, and it was Robert Meyer Burnett for a long time. And, you know, Robert Meyer Burnett and I talked a lot prior to Comic-Con, and, you know, I could get into the story about how he and I decided to do this, but that's a story for another time. But I will say this, that we are going to be doing The Weekly Hero again. It's going to be me and Robert Meyer Burnett, and I'm very excited about it. Probably have the odd other guest on there with us as well, but I'm just really excited about it because, you know, I tweeted out a few weeks ago, totally unrelated, but I remember tweeting out a few weeks ago that, you know, one of my favorite things used to be coming into the studio before every Heroes episode, and I'd be sitting at this table with me, John Schnepp, and Robert Meyer Burnett, and those two guys would always be there early, and listening to the great John Schnepp and Robert Meyer Burnett just talking comic book history, I swear to God, I felt like I was just sitting in a lecture room. Like, I felt like I was just learning. Like, listening to the great John Schnepp and Robert Meyer Burnett go back and forth on comic books. And I remember I tweeted at the time, there is nobody better on the planet than those two guys at that. And, you know, I was lucky enough to have Robert he moderated my panel at Comic-Con this year. And we hadn't yet talked about doing it at that point. But it was after Comic-Con that we started talking about maybe doing something. And we'll tell the story about how it all came about another time. But the basic thing is this. Weekly Hero comes back next week. It's not going to be a huge show. It's not going to be, but you know what? It's just going to be fun to sit down and talk about the world of comics on the screen, be it movies or television shows or whatever. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And I know he and I are both really looking forward to it. And I hope you guys will join us sometimes as we do that. Okay. With all that out of the way, let's bring back in the live questions and keep rolling with the live questions. All right. The next live question comes to us from Michael. Oh, and we lost him because there was the big jump. Give me a second. There he is. Michael Anderson writes, I work for a local municipality. I used to work for local municipalities as an engineer in engineering. But anyway, I work for a local municipality, and Warner Brothers is working with my office to film the new Joker movie in my town. We'll likely be able to get on set. Also, working under the movie title Romeo, although I assume that's just a fake out. I had heard that the working title on the movie was going to be Romeo, which is just a working title. That happens a lot with these types of things. So that's exciting. My caution to you, Michael, is for your benefit, for your good, don't talk about that too much publicly, especially if that's actually your name and your picture. Because I'm sure that the studio has, you know, probably some contracts and some deals that we're not supposed to be talking. I'm just saying, be careful. Just please, 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 please be careful for your own protection about what you share online and share publicly. Just be very cautious and very, very careful. I would even suggest talk to your bosses just to clarify what are you permitted to share or talk about and what you're not. Because I would just hate for you to get in trouble. Like, you're just a movie fan on this show sharing some exciting news, which is great. I just want to make sure you don't get in trouble for it. So please follow up. Make sure you know you're not getting in trouble for talking about any of that kind of stuff. But that aside, that sounds pretty exciting that you're going to get to be on set there. Maybe you'll get to see Mark Maron or Robert De Niro or Joaquin Phoenix himself, whatever, Zazie Beetz, whatever it is. That sounds very exciting. I'm excited for you. Just, once again, please make sure you do not get yourself in trouble over sharing your excitement. So just be extra careful about that, Michael. Okay, Der Wunderbar writes, "The Road is such a beautiful, grim, and bleak movie. Don't you think, John? Seen it multiple times. It is one of the finest performances Viggo Mortensen has ever given. It is one of the best performances Viggo Mortensen has ever given. Now, a lot of people talk about Eastern Promises, and he's great in Eastern Promises. Obviously, he's working Lord of the Rings, Hidalgo. There's other things as well, but The Road might be his best performance ever. Might be his best performance ever. And you're right. It is beautifully grim. It is beautifully bleak. And it's another one of those movies that, we're talking about a little bit earlier, movies that can sometimes be hard to get through. This is a movie that can be hard to get through. But it's a gorgeous, wonderful movie, and I'm glad you had a chance to watch it. Hey, guys, listen. We're already at an hour, but you know what? I'm going to finish answering all the questions that are here. So, please, if you have not sent in a question yet, don't send in any more questions. Don't send in any more questions. And I'm going to go a little bit quickly now, but I want to make sure I get to all these questions that we still have outstanding here. Okay, here we go. Starting with Koba. To be fair, John, Cineworld Unlimited is great. We were just actually talking about Cineworld. From everything I've heard about it, it is awesome. And just a note, Cineworld now owns Regal Cinemas. That's why I've been saying this whole time, don't worry. There is a movie membership deal plan coming to Regal. I mean, we already know there would be anyway, but the fact that Cineworld bought out Regal, they're going to bring that over. So for those of you who don't live near AMC's, you only live near Regals, don't worry. There's probably something really good coming for you pretty soon, I'm guessing. Murray Reich writes, "Smile, you son of a bitch." That was from Jaws, if I'm not mistaken. That's Roy Schneider laying on the canister with the gun going, "Smile, you son of a bitch," and pull. I believe that's the line. I might be wrong, but I'm going to take a guess that was Jaws. Dirk Diggler writes, "Continuing the mother-in-law conversation." I remember this. "Continuing the mother-in-law conversation. I would like your opinion on how she doesn't like Star Trek, and she doesn't know why, but she can deal with Star Wars. Hint, she loves talky soap operas." I'm not quite sure what it is you're asking, Dirk. I would like your opinion on how she doesn't like Star Trek, but she can deal with Star Wars. Well, they're both outer space, but they're very, very different movies. Like, yes, Star Wars is a sci-fi movie, sure. But whereas Star Trek is more mainline sci-fi, Star Wars is almost more fantasy and fairy tale in many ways. In many ways, the Star Wars stories play like a grim fairy tale. And because of that, by nature, the two different movie franchises are very, very different from each other. I don't see why anybody should expect that, if you like Star Trek, you would like Star Wars. Well, they're very different. Yes, they're outer space, but therein lies the end of the material similarities, I think, at any rate. So I know a lot of people that either like Star Wars and don't like Star Trek, or vice versa, whatever. And I know a bunch of people that like them both, sure. And I know a lot of people that don't like either of them. But it's not one we should be surprised that somebody likes one and not the other. They are very, very different kinds of movies. Like, right from the types of stories they are to the way the stories are told and all that kind of stuff. I can totally see how one would appeal to some and one would not appeal to others. But again, with in-laws, patience. Patience is the key word with in-laws, absolutely. Dirk follows it up with, "I have asked her why so many different times, and she comes up with, I don't know." Well, hey, fair enough. God, listen, I say this all the time. And you got to extend this to everybody else too, Dirk, especially your in-laws, is that the onus is not on you to explain why you do or don't like a movie. You watch it and experience it, and either it worked for you or it didn't. The onus is not on you to explain why you like it or why you don't. Nor should we as film fans put that onus. We can let people know, hey, just so you know, I'm curious, I'm interested in your opinion. So if, do you want to talk about why you don't like it? That's one thing. But say, you got to be able to tell me why you don't like it. Like, that's not something we should do, right? You either like something or you don't. And I think there are a bunch of movies that you can watch and like, and if somebody were to press you on it, like, maybe you can't explain why. Or you watch a movie and you didn't like it. Like, I've eaten food and said, well, what don't you like about it? I don't know. I put it in my mouth and I didn't like it, right? So make sure you give them that courtesy as well. Let's see here. Strider1237 writes, have you seen the Boromir figure on Sideshow Collectibles? Oh my God, yes I have. Wait a second, let me make sure I'm thinking of the right one. Boromir, by the way, is one of my all-time favorite literary characters. Like, all-time. Oh my God, it looks so good. Yeah. This is the one I've seen before. The story of Boromir is one of the great stories of redemption. That no matter how far down you've gone, you can start, it's never too late to start making right choices. That, you might have heard me say that before, it's never too late to start making right choices. I remember I started saying that after reading about Boromir. And yeah, I remember going into Lord of the Rings, there was big debates about Tom Bombadil. I'm like, yeah, it would have been cool to have Tom Bombadil, but as long as you got to have Boromir, because that's the redemption angle of Lord of the Rings. And ultimately, it's very key. One of the important things about Boromir and Lord of the Rings, I'm sorry, I'm trying to go fast here, but one of the important things is this, is that Boromir sets an early precedent that you can escape out of the influence of the ring. And that becomes important to understand for Baggins, right? Like, without that, maybe there is no hope for Frodo Baggins. That once the rings started making him make bad decisions, then that's it, he's done. But Boromir sets a precedence for us early in the trilogy that you can fall under the influence of the ring and then come back from that. And that lays the groundwork for the redemption of Frodo once he starts giving into the ring. So it's really, really keen. Anyway, yes, I love the figure. Okay. Alex Von Gollum writes, hey, John, geeking out a bit, had Ronan given the Power Stone to Thanos in Guardians 1, would he have started his Infinity War right away? Ooh. You know what? That's a good question. Because I have this theory that totally flies in the face of. I had this theory that he was waiting for the death of Odin. Odin was not somebody to be trifled with. Odin was not somebody to be trifled with. And I had this operating fan theory of my own that one of the things that held Thanos back from really going full out across the galaxy to gather the stones was waiting for Odin to die. Some other people thought it might have also been the Sorcerer Supreme, that they were waiting for that he was waiting for the Sorcerer Supreme, and that it's no coincidence that after the Sorcerer Supreme and Odin both die, that's when the big move happens. However, you raise a great point, Alex, that had he just gotten that stone from Ronan, that might have launched everything right there. To hell with if the Sorcerer Supreme is still out there, and to hell with Odin is still out there. That may fly completely in the face of my theory. I don't know. It's possible. It's possible. Great idea. Hardy Buck 4 writes, did you catch the Bruce Willis roast? I have not. I've seen that it's online. I totally want to watch it. I know that he said definitively something I've been saying for years, that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. Thank you for that, Bruce. But I have not watched the roast yet, but I am dying to watch it. I'm going to queue it up and watch it here in the next couple of days for sure. Dirk Diggler follows up with, wifey enjoys all my faves, love her fam, but I know, hey look, dude, look, you're brave that you even try to watch these movies with your in-laws. I have never tried to sit down and make my in-laws watch a movie. Never tried to make my in-laws watch a movie. And, you know, now, sadly, I only have one in-law left, and that's Anne's mom. But I've never sat down to make her watch a movie. So you are already a braver man than me. Paul Diego writes, villains quoting Shakespeare. Do you remember The Postman? With Kevin Costner? Oh, God. I can't remember a thing. I've seen The Postman, but I can't remember a single thing about that movie. I remember not hating it, but I can't remember the slightest detail about that movie, other than it was Kevin Costner. I can't remember at all. It's a great reference, and now I'm going to have to look it up. Thanks for that, Paul. Hardy Buck writes, time has passed. Have you forgiven Conor McGregor? No. Conor McGregor's a piece of trash to me. And I'm really disappointed that the UFC isn't punishing him. I can't believe that. I cannot believe that Conor McGregor physically injured their fighters and put their fighters at risk like that, and the UFC isn't going to suspend him. The UFC isn't going to do anything. That is awful. So, no, Conor McGregor can go to hell. I hope he fights. I want to be careful how I say this. I want to be careful how I say this. But I do hope he gets that lightweight title fight. I do. And he's going to get destroyed in that fight, because he is fighting the pound for pound, I believe, the greatest UFC fighter in the world right now. And I can't wait to, I might watch the fight, because I said I'll never watch another Conor McGregor fight. I might watch that fight just to watch him get his ass handed to him. So, anyway, that's just me. Raymond Verada writes, my choices for Mr. Rourke for Fantasy Island: Jonathan Goldsmith, most interesting man in the world. Ooh, that's not a bad one. Or Anil Kapoor, host of Slumdog Millionaire. That most interesting man in the world one is not a bad choice. That's not a bad choice. Well done, Raymond. Because for those of you who know what we was talking about earlier today, we talked on the John Campea show about how they're doing a Fantasy Island movie. And I said one of the most challenging things is going to be, who do you cast as Mr. Rourke? Who do you cast? Because we were talking a little bit earlier about Khan, Who do you cast in that? Maybe the most interesting man in the world. I mean, look, whatever it is, filling the shoes of Ricardo Montalban is next to impossible. But that might not be a bad one. I don't know if the dude can act, though. That's the problem. I don't know and that's the most important thing. Marie Seafring writes, just wanted to say good afternoon. Well, thank you, Marie. Good afternoon to you, too. I appreciate that. Thank you. Murray Reich writes, saw Mission Impossible Fallout last night, and it was awesome. That helicopter scene was intense. I honestly think Ethan is the only one who can take on Toretto right now. Well, no, he can't, because one of the things that I love about Mission Impossible is that Ethan gets his ass handed to him sometime. Like, there's a scene that you see in the trailer where there's a fight in a bathroom. Ethan gets his ass handed to him. And that's not unusual in the Mission Impossibles. Ethan takes a beating sometimes. And I love that about the movie. So, but, I mean, that means Dominic Toretto, who can take on a legion of iron tanks and beat them in 5 minutes, that means he'd probably beat Ethan Hunt as well, which is too bad. But that's one of the things I love about these movies, is that they make their heroes mortal. They make their heroes vulnerable. I like that. And they certainly do a good job of that in Mission Impossible Fallout. Emmanuel Santiago writes, hey, John, big fan. Thank you so much. So I was wondering, who do you believe portrayed Batman the best, Bale, Keaton, or Affleck? Affleck. Now, that's not to say that I believe Affleck is a better actor than Michael Keaton, nor is it saying that I think Ben Affleck is a better actor than Christian Bale. I just believe that in Batman vs. Superman, not Justice League, but in Batman vs. Superman, Ben Affleck gave us the most true-to-the-heart performance of Batman that we've ever had. That his performance as Batman, his incarnation of Batman, to me, was the most true incarnation of Batman we ever had. And for that, I chalk that up to his performance. So I believe Christian Bale is a better actor than Ben Affleck. I believe Michael Keaton is a better actor than Ben Affleck. But I believe Ben Affleck, who knows Batman inside out and backwards, has been a lifelong Batman fan. He knew what to focus on with that character. And I believe he gave us the most true incarnation of that character. Ben Rayner writes, Oscar from The Office is great in The Proposal. It's funny because you're like, He was never really in anything else other than he's in some State Farm commercials now. But yeah, Oscar from The Office. He plays like he's the male stripper. He's the justice of the peace. He's the grocery store man. He's everything. He is wonderful in that movie. Yet another reason to watch The Proposal. Michael Solaric writes, early screenings for Christopher Robin start at 6 p.m. my local AMC, so the embargo lifts after early showtimes on the East Coast. Not a good sign. Again, all I can say is I am puzzled by their decision to have this embargo. I really am. It is nothing but a red flag that screams, we have no faith in this movie. And they don't need to feel that way. Anyway, I can't discuss it because there's an embargo I'll talk about tomorrow, but you're right, Michael. It's a bewildering decision on their part. Absolutely bewildering decision on their part. Michael Solaric writes, I still see the movie, but it's disappointing, or I'll still see the movie. Yeah. I just don't understand. And it's hard to express the different ways that I don't understand without giving anything away about the movie, so I'll have to save that till tomorrow. But I am completely befuddled. There's a word you don't use every day. I am completely befuddled about why they would do this. It's dumb. It's a bad decision. I'll say this right, it is a bad decision. I don't know why they did it. They never normally do this, but it just screams, we don't believe in our movie, everybody. So I don't know why they do that. Anyway, Gabe. Where did Gabe go? Gabe Schembarger writes, did you see Henry Cavill's IG post about Schnepp? Oh, I certainly did. I'll let you know, Henry Cavill was one of the first guys that had watched our Man of Steel review. And it was a beautiful, but you know what? One of the amazing things was not just that, but seeing the outpouring from so many people, whether it was Patton Oswalt or whether it was Ryan Reynolds or whether it was there was a long list of people who wrote about the passing of John Schnepp, and I believe that was a testimony to the influence that the great man had. And and Cavill's comments on Instagram were perfect, and just makes me respect the dude even more. Just makes me respect him even more. Benny95 writes, John, thoughts on Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow? Oh my gosh, Jude Law and Angelina Jolie. Jude Law does not age. Also, hope you're doing okay with everything. Appreciate all you do. Thank you so much, man. Still kind of recovering. You can tell I'm not completely healed yet. I'm still talking a little bit funny. Man, it is hard to believe Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow was 14 years ago. 14 years ago. But Angelina Jolie, Bai Ling was in there, Giovanni Ribisi, Gwyneth Paltrow, Jude Law. You're right, Jude Law. He's kind of like Paul Rudd. Do not age. I swear to God, go back and watch Clueless. Paul Rudd looks like he's 3 years older today than he was in Clueless. And it's been, 20 years or something like that? Paul Rudd and Jude Law do not age, man. It's absolutely crazy. I got a kick out of Sky Captain. I didn't love it. I didn't love Sky Captain, but I did get a kick out of it. And I was working in a visual effects company at the time, and it was at the time, it was mind-blowing. It was an all visual effects movie. It was crazy. I didn't think the movie was great, but I got a kick out of it. It is crazy to think that it's 14 years old now, though. Marie Seifring writes, Peter Berg and Taylor Kitsch worked well on Battleship. Not just Mark Wahlberg and Berg combo works. Lone Survivor, great movie. I'm going to disagree with Marie. I thought Battleship was a steaming hot pile of garbage. But hey, if it worked for you, great. Peter Berg's a good director. And Taylor Kitsch, by the way, is a very underappreciated actor. Taylor Kitsch has had some bad luck by being in some bad movies. Number one, he was in John Carter, which was awesome, and he was awesome in it. And that movie should have made him a big A-list star. But unfortunately, Disney completely botched the marketing of that movie, and nobody went to go see it, and it flopped at the box office as a result. The movie was great, though. John Carter was great. And then he was Gambit in a terrible Wolverine movie. And then he's in Battleship, and that movie ended up being very disappointing. And then he was in True Detective Season 2, and most people didn't like Season 2 all that much. I mean, it just seems like he just gets this bad luck, because Taylor Kitsch is a very good actor. I like him very much. And the fact that he and Peter Berg would work well together. Well, good director, good actor, good combo. But yeah, the Berg-Wahlberg combo seems to have a certain magic to it that just really works. All right, last question of the day comes to us, and we've gone like 20 minutes over time. Kyle Brackman writes, what made you want to get into this line of work? Well, I have been a psychotic movie fan my whole life. And, just tell the story very briefly, but I was living in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, and working out there. And my home is in Ontario, Canada, in the Hamilton and Toronto area. And I was blogging before most people had ever even heard the term blog. But I was blogging a lot to keep everybody back home updated with pictures and keeping everybody updated with what I was doing out here in Saskatchewan. Well, I realized one day that like almost 70% of my blogging was just telling people what movies I'd been seeing. Because like my earliest childhood memory was seeing Star Wars. Was as a child seeing Star Wars. And I didn't have another memory until like 5 years later. But my earliest childhood memory is my mom taking me to see Star Wars. And all of my conversations with all my friends and people I meet always started and ended with movies. So I decided in 2003, I just had my 15-year anniversary last week. In 2003, I decided, you know what? Why don't I start another blog just to talk about movies? And I'll keep my other personal blog, just talk about all my other personal stuff. So I thought, you know what? And I'll call this blog The Movie Blog. And I went to the domain registrar, and themovieblog.com was available. So I bought themovieblog.com. History was made. A couple years later, I had 500,000 readers a month. I quit my job at the law firm, went full-time with it, even though I didn't think I'd make any money. Then I got up to 1 million viewers a month. I started the world's first movie podcast called the Movie Blog Audio Edition. Started doing a little bit of video. Sold the company, all that kind of stuff. This, that, AMC reached out to me, said, will you come and start an online thing for us? And I said, sure. And I moved to LA. But anyway, long story, but it was just, I've always loved movies, just did it myself, did it, passionate about it. People seemed to like watching it and reading it and listening to it. So it just kind of took off from there. Anyway, guys, that will do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Don't forget, the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow morning at our new starting time, 9 a.m. That's noon East Coast time. So make sure you come back, or noon Eastern Standard Time, I should say. So make sure you guys come on back and join me then. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks so much for being here and submitting all those awesome questions. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.